Before the lies, before the secrets, before Monica picked up his phone, there was just Darius trying to build a normal life. Before the lies, before the secrets, before Monica picked up his phone, there was just Darius trying to build a normal life. He met Monica Reed at a friend's birthday dinner almost 7 years earlier. She was smart, funny, calm under pressure, and somehow always made people around her feel safe. Darius noticed that immediately. Back then, his life was chaos. He bounced between jobs, carried debt he barely talked about, and spent most nights convincing himself he wasn't failing. Monica was different, stable, focused, the kind of woman who planned her future instead of running from her past. She loved him when he didn't even fully love himself. That's why the guilt later would destroy him. 2 years into their relationship, Monica introduced him to her younger sister Vanessa and Vanessa's husband Marcus during a family cookout. Marcus was loud, confident, and impossible not to notice. He joked with everybody, remembered random details about people, and somehow became the center of every conversation without trying. Darius honestly didn't think much about him at first, until the night everything shifted. It happened at the Monica's birthday party. Everybody else had left except Marcus and Darius, who stayed behind cleaning up while Monica and Vanessa went to pick up dessert from another store. Marcus tossed empty cups into a trash bag and laughed. You know, Monica talks about you like you hung the moon. Darius smirked. She exaggerates. Nah, Marcus replied quietly. She really loves you. Something about the way he said it felt different, too personal. Darius ignored that feeling. But after that night, Marcus started texting him more. At first, it was harmless memes, sport talks, complaints about work. Then deeper conversations started creeping in. Marcus admitted his marriage to Vanessa was struggling. She wants this perfect life, he said one night over drinks. Sometimes I feel like I'm pretending. Darius understood pretending better than anybody. And somehow, those conversations became routine. Weeks turned into months. The friendships became a secret comfort neither of them talked about out loud. Then came the hotel night, the night Darius replayed in his head 1,000 times afterwards. Monica had gone out of town for work. Vanessa was visiting family. Marcus asked Darius to grab drinks because he needed to clear his head. One drink became several, several became confessions, and somewhere between the laughter and the silence afterwards, lines got crossed. The next morning, Darius woke up sick with regret. Marcus didn't. It happened, Marcus said calmly while getting dressed. No point acting shocked now. Darius couldn't even look at himself in the mirror. It can't happen again. Marcus only smiled faintly. That should have been the end. Instead, it became the beginning of everything falling apart. Over the next year, Darius lived two lives, one with Monica, movie nights, feature plans, Sunday dinners, conversations about buying a house someday, and another life filled with secrets he hated himself for keeping. Marcus made everything worse because he never seemed afraid. You think too much, he'd always tell Darius. But Darius had to think because Monica trusted him completely. Vanessa trusted Marcus completely. And every single lie made Darius feel more trapped. Then little things started changing. Vanessa became suspicious. Monica started asking questions. Marcus became careless. And Darius started noticing something else too. Marcus was hiding things from him. Phone calls he wouldn't explain, random disappearances, a second phone once hidden in his car. When Darius asked about it, Marcus brushed him off. You don't need to know everything. That sentence stayed in Darius' head for weeks because suddenly he realized he might not be the only secret Marcus was keeping. Darius told himself it was over. After that night at the hotel, he promised himself it would never happen again. For 2 weeks, he ignored Marcus' texts. 3 weeks, he avoided family dinners. A month, he convinced himself he could bury the mistake and move on. Then, Marcus showed up at his job. Darius was walking to his car when he spotted Marcus leaning against a truck in the parking lot. What are you doing here? Darius asked. Marcus shrugged. He stopped answering. Because I meant what I said. Marcus looked away briefly before laughing. No, you don't. Darius hated how confident he sounded. I love Monica. For the first time, Marcus' smile disappeared. Then why you can't stop thinking about me? The question hit harder than Darius wanted to admit, because he had been thinking about him every day, and he hated himself for it. The following Sunday, Monica insisted they attend family dinner at Vanessa and Marcus' house. Darius spent the entire drive trying to calm his nerves. You seem distracted lately, Monica said. His stomach dropped. Just work. She studied him for a moment. You know you can talk to me, right? That almost broke him. Because Monica wasn't suspicious, she was concerned. And somehow that felt worse. Dinner started normally. Vanessa talked about a promotion she was hoping to get. Marcus grilled burgers outside. Monica laughed at something on her phone. Everything looked perfect until Darius walked into the kitchen alone. Marcus followed him. You gonna avoid me forever? Darius kept his voice low. Marcus, stop. Stop what? This. Marcus stepped closer. What if I don't want to? Darius looked toward the dining room to make sure nobody could hear. You have a wife, Marcus said. Marcus laughed softly. You have a girlfriend. Neither of them spoke after that because neither had a good answer. Months passed. The secret continued. And with every passing week, Darius noticed changes. Marcus became reckless. He texted strange hours, called unexpectedly, act like there was nothing to lose. But Darius felt like he was losing everything. Then one night, something happened that he couldn't explain. Marcus left his phone sitting on the restroom table while he paid the bill. The screen lit up. A message appeared. Not from Darius, not from Vanessa. A name Darius had never seen before. Avery. The message read, You promised you'd tell him soon. Darius stared at it. His chest tightened instantly. Tell him what? Marcus returned before he could read anything else. The second Marcus saw Darius looking at the screen, his expression changed. Not guilt, fear. Real fear. Marcus grabbed the phone. What are you doing? Who was Avery? Marcus immediately stood up. We're leaving. Marcus, I said, we're leaving. The drive home was silent. And for the first time since this all started, Darius wasn't worried about Monica finding out. He was worried that Marcus had been lying to him too. That night, Darius lay awake beside Monica while she slept peacefully. At 2:17 a.m., his phone buzzed. Another text from an unknown number. Only 4 words. Asked Marcus about Avery. Darius sat upright in bed. Then another message arrived before Monica gets hurt. Darius barely slept. The unknown text sat on his phone screen like a warning. Ask Marcus about Avery before Monica gets hurt. By morning, he had convinced himself it was a prank. Some random number, some random person. But deep down, he knew better. Because Marcus had looked terrified when the name appeared. And Marcus wasn't afraid of anything. The next afternoon, Marcus called. Lunch? Darius almost said no. Almost. But he needed answers. They met at a small restaurant across town where nobody knew them. Marcus arrived 20 minutes late. Sunglasses, baseball cap, checking over his shoulder before sitting down. Darius immediately noticed. You expecting somebody? Marcus forced a laugh. Why would you ask that? Because you look like you're running from someone. Instead, Darius pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. The text messages stared back at him. Marcus' face drained of color. For a moment, neither man spoke. Then Marcus whispered, Delete that. Darius leaned back. So you know who sent it? No, you do. Marcus rubbed his face. Darius, just leave it alone. Who is Avery? Marcus stood up so fast his chair nearly tipped over. Stop asking. Every alarm in Darius' head started screaming because this wasn't guilt. This wasn't embarrassment. This was panic. Real panic. 3 days later, Monica invited Vanessa and Marcus over for dinner. Darius spent the entire evening watching Marcus, watching him check his phone, watching him stare out of windows, watching him jump up every time someone knocked at the door. Something was wrong, and Marcus wasn't telling him. Then, halfway through dinner, Vanessa accidentally dropped a glass. It shattered across the kitchen floor. Everyone jumped, except Marcus. Marcus was already staring at his phone, frozen, terrified. Vanessa frowned. You okay? Marcus immediately locked the screen. Fine, I'm fine. But Darius had seen enough, because for a split second, he saw Avery's name appear again. Later that night, after everyone left, Darius couldn't stop thinking about it, so he did something he never imagined he'd do. He followed Marcus. At 10:42 p.m., Marcus pulled into a parking lot of an old office building. Most of the lights were off. The place looked abandoned. Darius parked across the street, watched, waited. Then a woman stepped out of the building. Tall, dark coat, long black hair. Marcus walked toward her immediately and hugged her. Not like strangers, not like coworkers, like people who knew each other very well. Very well. Darius' heart pounded. Who was she? Avery? Another secret? Another lie? He reached for his phone to take a picture, but before he could, the woman looked directly toward his car. Even from across the street, Darius felt it. She saw him. Marcus turned around, followed her gaze, and suddenly both of them were staring directly at Darius. The woman smiled, not a friendly smile, a knowing one. Then she pulled something from her purse and handed it to Marcus. Marcus looked down. His face went white. And then his phone started ringing. Darius checked the screen. Unknown number. The same number that sent the text. His hand shook as he answered. A woman's voice whispered, Now you know Avery. Then the line went dead. Darius sat frozen in his car. The call had ended, but the woman's voice echoed in his head. Now you know Avery. Across the street, Marcus and the woman stood under a flickering parking lot light, still staring at him, still watching. Darius' instinct screamed at him to leave. He followed those instincts and started the car and drove straight home. The next morning, Monica immediately noticed something was off. You look awful, she said, pouring coffee. Didn't sleep? You haven't been sleeping for weeks. Darius forced a smile. Just work. Monica studied him carefully. For a second, Darius thought she knew. Not about Marcus, about everything. The lies, the secrets, the fear. But she simply kissed his cheek and headed to work. And somehow, that made him feel worse. At noon, his phone buzzed. Marcus. Darius ignored it. It rang again, and again, and again. Finally, he answered. What? Where are you? Darius frowned. Why? Because we need to talk. No. Darius. No. Marcus. Silence. Then Marcus said something strange. She's not who you think she is. Darius gripped his phone tighter. Avery? Marcus immediately lowered his voice. Don't say her name. Why? Because if she's contacting you, things are already worse than I thought. Darius laughed bitterly. You expect me to believe that? No, Marcus said quietly. I expect you to listen. That night, Darius finally agreed to meet him. Not because he trusted Marcus, because he didn't. They met in a quiet park after dark. Marcus looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. You need to stay away from Avery, Darius folded his arms. Who is she? Marcus looked around nervously, then sighed. She used to work for me. Darius frowned. You own a business? Marcus immediately realized his mistake. His face tightened. Darius stepped forward. What business? Marcus stayed silent. And that's when Darius realized something. After all this time, they were entire parts of Marcus' life he never questioned because he'd been too distracted by everything else. Tell me the truth. Marcus stared at the ground. Avery knows things. What things? Things that could destroy people. Darius laughed. You mean like us? Marcus didn't laugh back. No. The answer chilled him because Marcus looked genuinely afraid. Then a car pulled into the parking lot. Both men turned. A black sedan. The same one Darius had seen weeks earlier. The same one that seemed to be everywhere. The driver's door opened. Avery stepped out. Neither of them moved. She walked calmly toward them, confident, unbothered, as if she'd expect to find them together. When she reached them, She looked directly at Darius. I'm glad you came. Marcus looked furious. What do you want? Avery ignored him. Her eyes never left Darius. Then she reached into her purse and handed him a sealed envelope. What is this? Proof. Darius frowned. Proof of what? Avery's expression hardened. The person you've been trusting the most. Marcus immediately stepped forward. Don't open that. But it was too late. Darius looked down at the envelope, and written across the front in black marker were 6 words that made his blood run cold. For Monica, she deserves the truth. Darius stared at the envelope in his hands. For Monica, she deserves the truth. The words seemed heavier than paper should. Marcus looked ready to panic. Don't open it, he said again. Avery folded her arms. See, that's exactly why you should. Darius looked between them. For months, Marcus had controlled every conversation whenever questions came up. Every time Darius got close to the truth, Marcus changed the subject. Not this time. Slowly, Darius opened the envelope. Inside was a stack of photographs. His stomach dropped. The first few showed Marcus meeting different people at different locations, nothing shocking, until he reached the last photo. His hand froze. Marcus wasn't alone. Neither was Avery. Sitting beside them was someone Darius recognized immediately. Monica. What is this? Darius whispered. Marcus closed his eyes. Avery looked almost disappointed. You really didn't know. Darius flipped through the photos again. There was Monica talking to Avery, Monica leaving the same office building, Monica sitting at the table with Marcus. None of it looked romantic, but it looked secretive. Very secretive. Explain this. Marcus rubbed his place. It's not what you think. Darius laughed angrily. That's everyone's favorite sentence. Avery stepped forward. Monica hired me. The world seemed to stop. Darius blinked. What? She hired me 6 months ago. His chest tightened. For what? Avery looked directly at him. To find out why you were lying. Silence. Complete silence. The color drained from Darius' face. Monica knew. Not everything, but enough to suspect. Enough to investigate. Enough to hire someone. You told her? Darius asked Marcus. Marcus shook his head immediately. No. Then how does she know? Neither of them answered, and somehow that answer was worse, because Monica had figured it out herself, piece by piece. Little clues, late night texts, missed calls, excuses that don't make sense. The woman he thought trusted him completely had been searching for answers for months. Avery sighed. She wanted proof before confronting you. Darius felt sick. All this time, he'd been terrified of getting caught. Meanwhile, Monica had quietly been putting the puzzle together. She never wanted to hurt anybody, Avery continued. She wanted the truth. Marcus looked away because the truth was one thing nobody in the situation had been willing to give. Then Avery handed Darius a second envelope. His heart sank. What's in this one? Everything else. Everything? Avery nodded. Every message, every meeting, every lie. Marcus swore under his breath. Darius stared at the envelope. If he opened it, there would be no going back. No more pretending. No more secrets. No more versions of the story that made him feel better about what he'd done. Just the truth. The full truth. And somewhere across town, Monica was still waiting for answers. Then Darius' phone rang. Monica? All three of them stared at the screen. Avery stepped back. Marcus looked terrified. The phone continued ringing. Darius already knew. Whatever happened next would change all of their lives forever. And for the first time in a long time, he wasn't sure Monica was calling to ask a question. He thought she might already know the answer. The phone still warm in Darius' hand when the call ended. Monica's last words still echoed in his head. Sunday dinner. Marcus let out a breath like he'd been holding it in for minutes. The timing is not random. Avery crossed her arms tighter. She's planning something. She has to be. Darius didn't respond right away. He was still staring at the second envelope, the one Avery had just handed him. Everything else, those were her words. But now, sitting in the quiet of the park, None of it felt like everything. It felt like pieces arranged in a way he wasn't supposed to understand yet. Darius finally opened it. Marcus stepped closer immediately. Don't do that here. I already started, Darius said. And he pulled out the contents. More photos, more messages printed out, meetings, names, location, nothing fully connected, but enough to feel intentional. Avery watched his face carefully. What are you seeing? Darius didn't answer at first. Then he stopped on one photo. Monica, standing outside a building he didn't recognize, not smiling, not upset, just focused, like she was looking for something or someone. His voice dropped. She's been moving on her own. Marcus frowned. That doesn't mean she knows what it means. Darius looked up sharply. Then what does it mean? Silence. Because neither Marcus nor Avery had a clean answer. That was the problem. Everything pointed toward Monica knowing something, but not enough to be certain. Not yet. Darius shoved the photos back into the envelope. She called about Sunday dinner like everything is normal, he said quietly. Avery shook her head. That's not normal. That's controlled. Marcus had held through his teeth. She's texting the room. Darius looked between them, or she's still collecting pieces. That thought sat heavier than anything else, because if Monica was still collecting, then she wasn't finished. And if she wasn't finished, then Sunday dinner wasn't the end of anything. It was a setup. Monica. Later that night. Monica stood in the kitchen alone after the call ended. The house was quiet behind her. Darius had said yes to Sunday dinner too quickly. That told her something. Marcus hesitated when she mentioned it. That told her something else. And Avery. Avery didn't react the way someone uninvolved should. Monica leaned against the counter slowly. She wasn't angry. Not yet. She was observant. Because the pattern was forming. Not proof, not true, just pattern. And patterns always came before answers. Her phone lit up again. No message, just a call log. She stared at it for a long moment, then whispered to herself, Sunday would tell me everything. But even she didn't realize the truth yet, because she was still missing one final piece. The piece that tied Marcus, Avery, and Darius together in a way she hadn't fully understood. Not betrayal, not confession, something more deliberate, something planned. And Sunday dinner was getting close. Back to the park with Darius. Darius' phone suddenly rang again. Unknown number. He hesitated. Marcus stiffened immediately. Don't answer that. Avery stepped closer. Answer it. Darius looked at both of them, then pressed accept. Yeah, he said. A pause. Then a calm, controlled voice answered. But this time, there was no confusion, no mystery, no guessing, just recognition. Good. You opened it. Darius froze. Marcus went still. Avery didn't move at all. Darius whispered, Who is this? The voice answered instantly. You already know me, Darius. And then everything clicked. Not because of what was said, but because of how familiar it sounded. Darius' face went pale. No, Marcus closed his eyes. Avery finally looked away because the truth was no longer hidden. The man on the phone wasn't a stranger, wasn't a detective, wasn't someone new. It was someone who had been inside their lives the entire time. Someone who was always had access. Someone who knew every detail of Monica's routine, every Sunday dinner, every conversation, every crack in the story. Darius whispered again, broken now. It's you. Then the voice confirmed. Yes. Marcus finally spoke, barely audible. You were never supposed to open that envelope. Darius shook his head. You set all this up. The voice didn't deny it. Instead, it said, I set it in motion. You all kept it alive. A long silence. Then the voice added softly, and Sunday dinner is where it ends.